Anyway, Mike Jones is going to demo making rings.
Some of you that's been here have seen me have my show and tell on rings, and I started out with just making solid rings, and then I went to laminated type ring. Let's see if I can find one. There we go. See that or not?
Hold it over the wood.
There?
There you go.
Okay, this is one of the first type that I really got to making after I experimented with a solid one, because it seemed like the solid ones, you had to have them pretty thick to keep them tough and durable, and by laminated I felt like they was a little bit more durable and a little stronger. And then
Cross the grain on those, or
I just glued them up.
just glue 'em up? I didn't know if that'd be stronger. Or...
Well, it probably would be, but you know, I've heard people all these different theories about putting wood together, and that's thinking too much, you know, it takes the fun out. And then I found out that Craft Supply had these stainless steel liners, and so I decided that if I was going to give them to my grandkids, that maybe that would be a way to go, because you know, I figured these
a bit further
just
forward,
wouldn't.
Mike, right over the top V. There you go.
The wood ring, you know, would stand up, but it probably wouldn't stand up as good with the liners to give it more strength. And so this is basically what I gave my 4 grandkids and my daughter and son and my wife and last year for Christmas. And since then I've got into this twisted wire that I was asked to demonstrate tonight, and this is copper wire in mahogany wood. The mahogany is a light wood and not real hard, but it seems to work real good for the twisted wire, so that's the reason I went with it. And that's what I'm going to demonstrate tonight. I've done a little experimenting with a groove with inlays put in it, and it turned out real well. I tried it on a bangle for the wrist, and so far I hadn't worked out the problem with air bubbles in it. The ring I didn't have any problem, and I was really surprised how well it turned out. Of course, the next one I have might have bubbles all the way around, you know, because I found out the twisted wire deal doesn't always work as good as you think it's going to work. But if you want, I'll pass these around. You guys can look at them while I start the demo.
You've got those counted for us, don't you?
Well, if there's a lot of openings there, I know somebody's pocketed some. And then I'm going to be in trouble, because some of them are allotted to people. But I start out with a wood block like this, just a basic pine block. And to not run us over too late, I'm going to jump ahead to how I really start out. After I've turned it down, I go to a block like this to attach my wood from a ring. But I just tighten it up, put a little pressure on, and then lock it back, and I've had real good luck with them holding on. I'm going to face it off, because I don't know how true it's going to be now after bringing it in and everything. Okay. And Next, I go to the block, and I've already nubbed the ends, the corners off, so it'll be a little easier to turn. But I started out with a basic square block. This one's a little thick. I have started out that way, and then I'll just cut off and leave a little bit of the original mahogany on there.
You faced that end of it off, you made it slightly concave, is that what you did? Or you
It's
tried to-
slightly, because I'm gonna be taking that hole out.
Okay.
You know, I'm gonna end up with just a little fraction of the wood left, you know. But I just glue that block on there. I'm using medium CA. From experience, I found out that if I try to go right in to turn it down, it's going to come loose because of the fact that I'm going to have a big hole in there, and there's just a tiny bit of a ring attached to the block. And when you go to drill out the hole like I'm going to do with a 1/2-inch drill bit, it usually tears it loose if you don't leave it to dry for about an hour. Next step, drilling the rough hole.
It should come up and you turn it back.
Oh, that's right. I bore through the block for the ring into the holding mandrel block, so I'll have room to maneuver my tool to the back side.
Okay, so why did you just do that?
I'm just getting the outside round,
Oh, okay.
try to get my reference points.
You could do that if it was skew, right?
Oh yeah, but I might tear it off or put a big old gouge in it. I'm not gonna risk it on this. I don't have much extra meat on it. I'll be taking some more off later. This is the tedious part, is getting the inside opened up. And it's not as bad on a solid ring as it is the rings with the stainless liners, because those you really need close. And a person's finger has a lot more give to it than those liners do. In fact, as I've noticed, and the kids noticed, that on a hot, sweaty day, that sometimes they change a little bit. Of course.
Now, are you going to put a liner in this one?
No,
Okay.
there wouldn't be enough meat left to put a liner and then put a groove for the copper in there. Because that liner, you know, takes, I forget, it's been a while since I measured it. It's the wall, and it's pretty thick, really. And I looked online and made up a chart for sizes, and it amazed me that no more difference than there was in the, like a half size, you know, it was only 15 thousandths between the sizes. I would have never thought it'd been that close, so I had to come up with the chart so I could fit people. But we're starting out here with roughly a 500 hole, and 586 is a number 4 ring, which is pretty small. My wife has smaller fingers than my granddaughters, and they're teenagers. It would amaze me.
Is that a tool that you made special for that?
Well, it's one that I found online, and I made about a month ago, and found out it's pretty good. They call it a skewgy or something like that. I forget the name. There's different names, but it's you grind it about half the thickness down of the rod, and then you put a 45 degree radius, whatever you like, on there, and it's really good for getting into these rings. I was using a real small skew at first, and I had to be so careful, you know, about taking too heavy a cut. I could gouge one real easy, you know, and until I got my light here like this, I was having trouble seeing what I was doing sometimes. A little tall. little portable vacuum cleaner there. Compressor. See where we're at. About 7:05. It's a little above a 7.5. You also have to get pretty straight in there because sometimes you can get taper in there. And unfortunately tonight, that situation I'm having a big problem with. And sometimes they egg out a little bit. Take it on up to 7:17, which is an 8. Take a little manual block out.
So what inside diameter are you shooting for?
I'm shooting for 7:17, which is an 8.
Which is a number 8, and you found that chart somewhere online?
Yes.
Okay,
You'll find it in a variety of different countries and languages,
okay.
and you'll see 2 charts will vary some. I added on the bigger numbers here, and
And you just look for ring size?
yeah, ring size, yeah. I brought 20 copies if anybody's interested in a copy. They can have one. I'll go ahead and pass those around.
Craft Supply's got those too.
What'd you say?
Craft Supply has got that in their
Catalog.
website.
Yeah,
Because you
Yeah.
can buy the ring sizers and also.
right. Yeah, I've got a set of the plastic ones. I didn't go for the metal ones, but they've got a good set. And now they offer half sizes on the liners. When I first started playing with it before Christmas, they didn't have half sizes. They just had whole sizes. The Craft Supply website has a good video on how to do the rings with liners. do a little smoothing and take some of the egg shape out of it with a dowel and sandpaper wrapped around it. Not too bad, running about 715 to 720. I haven't found a tool I really like on the grooving, but I've got a couple that I've made that are working, but I'm sure there's better. There's two that I've made out of old screwdrivers. The one on the left is a little blunter, and this one here on the right is a more round. And then I've just recently come up with these out of nails, and they're pretty flat. One's narrower than the other, and of course no more material and I'm taking out. Those nails are going to last a long time. There's not much problem about wearing them out, you know. I mean, I'm not even going into production or anything. Since this is a smaller one, I'm going to make it a little bit narrower than the block is right now. And mark me a center line. Try to start me a groove there. How deep?
How big?
Well, the wire tells you how deep.
Okay.
And it's time to talk about the wires. Anyway, I've been just using wire that I've taken out of old had fluorescent lights that I had taken apart and went to LED. 'Cause I had quite a few pieces of it. And just, I would cut the side down on it and strip off the wire, which is like 040, the wire is here. Then after you twist it, it becomes right at 80, 79, 80. And what I always do, just something I started when I first started playing with these, is I flatten it with a vise so it won't be quite as tall.
Are you twisting it under pressure, under tension?
Yeah, I'm going to show you how to twist it right now. My little jig and my wire twisters, safety wire pliers. Something I used back when I worked for Boeing, working on 747s, modifying them into tankers.
I've got a hung on to my pair from the Air Force.
So I gotta get this center out now. After all, Jim Tate and I did a demo for him just for practice 2 or 3 months ago. And we come up with this solution to the problem about holding it. Just an old nail and a piece of 1x4 and a pair of vice grips. At home I was just sticking this in my vise. Since I didn't have a vise handy up here, needed something else. Protect the new lathe. Just loop it around. Usually I use about a 14-inch piece, so I got plenty. At first I was just using pliers, then I said, wait a minute, get those safety wire pliers out. Of course, my first thought is, I'm going to have to be really careful. I'll be twisting that copper wire in half. But
I think they sell those at Harbor Freight now too.
yeah.
I went in there looking for them, and I could not find them. They didn't know what they were.
I thought I saw some in the Northland store once, but maybe not.
Aircraft Supply would have them.
Yeah. Probably $100 or more just for the pliers, because this wouldn't be anything cheap. And you just twist it to your preference. I twist it fairly tight, but I get almost to the point where I'm going to probably twist it in half. That's how I do the wire.
He's for the Independence Park, doesn't
78, so it's pretty consistent. I'll send that around and you can look at it, see what it looks like. I picked up a partial roll of motor winding wire at a garage sale And I may try that. It's 03 diameter, but it has a real neat color to it. I haven't tried it yet. And I have twisted one with safety wire, but I haven't tried it in a groove yet. The trouble will be is filing the ends. I found out trying to use a Dremel grinder on filing the ends is not fun. That wire gets hot in a hurry. Real hot. Anyway, you wrap the wire around. Down in the groove as deep as you can, and then you snip the ends off.
Did you burn it yet? Did you burn it yet? Or?
You can if you want.
No, I didn't know if it would.
I don't know if you could. I'm just showing you the way I've started doing it.
Sure.
The way I've done it. There's a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I know that would probably be a interesting effect on it too, heating up the wood.
I would think that would be the tough part, getting it the right length.
It is. You've got to be real patient. 'Cause you needed this to get them to join up like I have on the ones. You've got to get them pretty tight. Which I'll show you what I do. I'm going to jump ahead to one I've already got trimmed the length because we're already getting close on time. I just file it.
So you file in to make them,
But and
okay.
on the thicker wire, I put a slight taper on it so that when they wrap around, they'll butt up at a taper. This thinner one is not as, I don't think is as critical. I just file the ends. And I know the day I tried to Dremel, that when I burnt my fingers, I said, well, rushing this isn't going to help any. Because all it does is get hot. But you really have to push and wrap it in there, because the closer you get it in the groove, the more they overlap. Then after I get the ends pretty close, I use a specially modified hose clamp to hold it in the groove. Which, as you see here, is one that I've got glued up. And there's nut driver. You can't quite see the window that I've put in it.
You have any trouble releasing the clamp from the glue?
No, because I wrap it in wax paper. I solved that problem. But here's all I did was take out one section. I don't know if you can see that or
Right
not.
a little bit,
Hmm?
to the right. Yeah,
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
See, I took out one window, so that gives you more room to see your butt up. which I've got quite a little bit more to sand there. I'm gonna go ahead and swap to this one so we can see the fun of
You go down with the CA glue?
yeah.
Medium again?
Well, usually I have used thick and hadn't had any problems. This is an operation you don't want to get in a hurry about taking it loose, because there is, as you see, I can almost push that up budding. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see it? See, I've still got a gap. We'll stick this on here real quick and see if it does bud up. I think it does. I believe it does. It's better to look at it right now when you can see it, because if you do it with the wax paper on there, it's anybody's guess whether it's budded up or not. That's not bad. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Now before I glue it, or before I wrap it around there, I take a little bit of 320 or something paper and sand it a little bit so it's rough, so there won't be any slickness to the wire, and it usually holds it good. I've never had one pop loose yet. And I just cut a strip of wax paper wider than the clamp. I tried saran wrap, but that's a mess. Too much thick. Just trying to get it, But what I do is I just wrap it around here after I put the CA glue on. Where to put my window in case I could see. Usually though, you really can't tell, but it's not that important, on this operation to have the window. And I found out that the insides of those clamps aren't perfectly round where they have the butt up and where it's wrapped, and I don't know how y'all describe all that, but it's good to put a little bit of cardboard on the inside to add pressure and fill in the low area, I call it. Of course they want to wiggle out on you. Get your fingers up there. Try to get them as tight as you can, and it doesn't seem like it's laying down as good as I want, so I'm going to mash it down with a screwdriver there a little bit. It's sort of like the end pop raised up. I don't know if you can see that. You can see the copper shining through there. I'll do the one I had clamp on. Oh, here it is, better. See how this one turned out. Well, it didn't bud up. I had a lot of trouble with this, and I don't know if you can see that.
How long does it take to cure without the accelerator?
Well, I don't worry about it because I just walk off and let it set. And I've always got something else going on, you know, that I can work on.
What kind of finish ring?
Finish the ring with
Yeah.
CA. Yeah. Yeah, I just recently started cutting this heavy paper into like a little spreader. Sort of like this. And I just put some on there and I just spread it around. And then when it starts getting tacky, you just back off because you're going to be sticking your paper to it, and then you'll have it contaminate, I guess, your finish. But if you go messing with it too soon, you'll find out that paper towel or sandpaper will stick to tacky CA glue. So after you put the filler in, you know, the finish on there, the CA, you just need to let it set to where it gets pretty cured up. I had one today, I got bigger, and I thought, oh, I think I'll buff it a little bit with a paper towel. Next thing I know, I had paper towel stuck all the way around it because it just grabbed it, you know.
Yeah.
So I just thought I was going to get this ring finished, you know. And is there any questions?
When you part that off, now, how do you finish the back side?
Oh, yes. Glad you mentioned that. I use a pin mandrel. Works real good. I first started out with a tapered wood mandrel, and that worked all right until I sort of experimented and saw how convenient a pin mandrel worked on this little project. To get it centered, I made these round bushings.
You make them out of HDPE?
Mm-hmm. I first tried a set out of Corian, and they worked great. But sometimes when you get too much CA on there, next thing you know, you've got a Corian ring there with, you know, it's like that, you know, and you don't want that.
What are these?
These are made out of
HDPE?
HDPE. I call it the milk jug plastic, you know, basically.
What they call that, Durlin too, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know where the package of rings are, but these have a little taper on them. Centers them up, stick the spacer on there, tighten it down. And it's better to use a center that's steel, not a cone that's out of aluminum, because those pin mandrel deals will chew up the end of a tapered aluminum one. And then you just, of course, if it had wire you'd see, you just brush that on and get it on the sides, and with these plastic spacers you can, you know, get too much on there, and then when you take it off you got to work the inside too. Most of the time before I cut them off, I work CA on the inside. I don't know if you can see that, but inside the mahogany supports that CA flows to the inside. So by the time you get the inside coated and the edges and the outside, it's going to be fairly dense with CA glue, which is a plastic. Till this project came along, I'd never messed with CA glue. I was always thinking, man, I don't want to have that stuff. It'll be slinging off on me. But I've never had that problem, but I'm sure you could if you put too much. One problem I did have was putting too much on, and then walked away and came back the next day and I had a big bubble of CA glue down there that I had to sand off and get the ring back to round.
Well, when you're doing pins, you take part of a paper towel, kind of fold it over so it's fairly thick,
Right.
and just put across there and then hold it up and run it like that on the pen.
Right. Well, that's a lot of times that's what I do, is I just make me a little wiper with this, because I don't want to get it all over my fingers. And I'll work the inside, turning it, you know, to coat the inside and the outsides too. But the little spreader seems like makes a little bit of glue go a lot further than the paper towel does, because it doesn't suck into the little wiper there.
What do you make your spreader out of
Just it's what it is leftover from my wife's cards that she makes and sends to ladies and people. Cardstock's what it is. It's thinner than a business card, but you know, it's the same kind of paper. Yeah.
thin cardboard?
Yeah, just real thin cardboard. Something that's not fuzzy. That's the main thing, because you don't want that fuzzy to get all over your project, you know. I guess that's it.